The Lawsuit Reform Alliance of New York is out with a new report on lobbying spending by trial lawyers after Governor Cuomo called the lawyers the most powerful force in Albany. The report shows that spending by the trial lawyers has gone up 37% since 2010 and now tops $1 million. My next guests say that spending is making it harder for the legislature to act on key items like the Scaffold Law. Here to talk more about that is Tom Stebbins. He is Executive Director of the Lawsuit Reform Alliance, and business owner Mary Ellen Belding. Thank you very much for being here. Tom, welcome back to Capitol Tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so I guess from my perspective and from people who've covered Albany and are familiar, it's not terribly surprising to hear the governor say this. I mean, the trial lawyers are a force. Certainly, Sheldon Silver, the Speaker of the Assembly, is an attorney, a trial lawyer, and so, you know, this isn't a big surprise. But maybe for the average person, it was.
For the average person, it is, I think, a surprise. I mean, for folks in Albany, today is Trial Lawyer Lobby Day. There's hundreds of trial lawyers crawling all over the Capitol right now.
Metaphorically speaking.
But for a regular person, they wouldn't necessarily know that, because the trial lawyers, they don't have any press conferences. They don't do any press. They don't want anybody to know that they're there, because I think they know that the majority of New Yorkers disagree with their agenda. And so they don't want to publicize it. They want to come in, they drop large amounts of cash on the legislature, and that's what they do. They're not there to let New Yorkers know what they're doing.
Okay, well, just to be fair, though, I mean, the fact that they're not holding a press conference doesn't, isn't like a gotcha. I mean, there are plenty of people who don't hold press conferences and want to work under the radar screen. Many lobbyists actually work under the radar screen.
Well, that's many lobbyists, but I don't think you see large associations that have large constituencies, that have hundreds of people coming to the Capitol, that don't want to do any sort of press, that don't want people to know about their activities. And right now, in the case of the Scaffold Law, I mean, you have the trial lawyers largely behind the efforts to prevent reform, and yet they're putting out their emissaries, they're putting out other people to provide cover.
Is it all the trial lawyers, though? Because it's also the labor unions. I mean, it's also
Sure.
People on the left who say that the Scaffold Law is necessary to protect workers, right? I mean, it's not just the trial lawyers, although they are a force, and the governor did, in fact, blame them, or at least associate them, when he said there won't be Scaffold Law action. He also said he didn't think it was top priority for business.
Well, I think he's wrong there, and if you talk to a number of business owners, business associations, they'll absolutely say that this is one of our top 3 priorities.
Well, we have a business owner with us, so let's talk to her. I mean, you basically were the low bidder on 3 municipal projects,
Yes.
2 in the state parks, 1 in the city of Rochester, in the last week, which is great. But you need liability insurance,
Yes.
and you're having difficulty getting that.
Well, the insurance market is very, very difficult for contractors, all contractors, small business, because of the Scaffold Law. And that is not publicity. The carrier that I was with, I've been with for 5 years, I've never had an incident. However, the risk isn't worth the reward. I can't generate enough premium as a small business to cover the potential loss for the type of work I do.
So if you can't get liability insurance, you can't do these contracts, is that correct?
I shut my doors.
So what is going to happen in the next several weeks? You're looking for another carrier, I would
Well,
assume.
I have been looking. Actually, I'm on a 2-month extension. The carriers will not write small business. They will not write contractors.
And they say to you, because of Scaffold Law specifically, we won't do this.
Yes. I had one, I thought almost, and they went on my equipment list. They evaluate you, and they saw that I had a 6-foot Baker scaffold and said, we can't do it. Our actuaries won't let us. I mean, it's numbers. It's business sense for them. If I generate $200,000 in premium, and the minimum of a 240 claim is $1 million, why would they? I can't blame them. And we've gone to carrier after carrier. I have 30 years in safety. I have 30 years in construction. My performance has been stellar as far as safety.
And I think that's the interesting point here, is that she doesn't have any injuries, and yet she's experiencing these problems. This is really collateral damage right now of the Scaffold Law. It's not just the lawsuits and litigation that you hear about. It's really the insurance market, and the insurers are pulling out. They don't want to write this coverage at any price.
Speaking of collateral damage, metaphorically again, I mean, there was just recently a report, and the report actually, now the report's author is distancing itself because of the report was actually funded by the industry, if I'm not mistaken.
It's funded by the research arm of my organization.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So didn't that also do damage to your whole case? I mean, not to say that the report. Let's not leave aside the contents, if you will, for a second. Just the idea of a report that's funded by industry and therefore makes it suspect sets you back.
Well, we issued an RFP to universities. We got universities to study this. 2 different universities, Cornell University and the Rockefeller Institute.
Right.
So we got 2 different groups to study it. Meanwhile, the opposition has groups like the Center for Popular Democracy and these kinds of places that aren't actual academic research institutions. We wanted an academic research third-party study, and that's what we looked for. And then when we found out, when they were distancing themselves, I wondered, why are they doing that? And sure enough, I look at the leadership of the Rockefeller Institute, and the chair is a practicing plaintiff's attorney. So it's not just the influence that they have in terms of dollars. There's also influence that goes much farther than that. I mean, you talked about Sheldon Silver, his outside income, but there's also positions like this, positions of power, where they can exert their influence.
Okay, so, I mean, realistically speaking, and this would be problematic to believe that scaffold law reform is actually still on the table. I know you're pushing, but according to the governor, it's not going to happen.
Well, Mary Ellen's not the only one, and we're going to continue to see more and more businesses have troubles. And they already know. I mean, the governor has said very clearly that they understand the case for reform. They understand the need for reform because they've tried to get the SCA funded, and they know the SCA, the School Construction Authority, they know school dollars are being wasted. They know affordable housing dollars are being wasted. The disaster relief organizations came out recently, said this is a problem, so they know all this money is being wasted, money that they control, public money, and so I think they're with us. But what we really need to do is now help them understand, help the legislature understand that this crisis that people have been talking about coming for a long time, it's here.
So then to highlight the power of the trial lawyers, and I know that the governor did so himself, but doesn't that also, again, deflect attention away from the case for reform that you're trying to make? I mean, you're focusing on the largest impediment, or at least as you see it.
Well, they're the only people that profit when there's an injury. If there's an injury, industry doesn't profit, businesses don't profit, the injured worker obviously doesn't profit. Nobody profits except for the plaintiff's attorneys. They are the only constituency that makes money from these sorts of things. So it's frankly in their interest to forward this law that describes this absolute liability.
And in the long term, what's your plan?
I have 17 business days, Liz, and I'm trying, I'm working, getting in front of different people. The governor has been very supportive. Lieutenant governor has been very supportive.
Oh, Rochester's his hometown, of course, right.
Yes. However, the position that I feel very strongly about, and I've been promoting this reform for a long time, well before I had my business, is a woman-owned contractor, considered a minority contractor, lifelong resident of New York State. I have an issue with not allowing my day in court. I have a very significant problem. I'm told it's politics. I don't want politics. I want to be able to provide a safe workplace, to give jobs, to earn a living, to keep a roof over my head, and to do so in construction, which is my livelihood and the fundamental of the country. And without my day in court, without the ability to say that there was some comparative negligence, we're not saying get rid of it.
Right.
We're just saying give an explanation. Everybody is entitled to that.
Well, you have about 20 days left in the session, so I wish you luck. Mary Ellen,
you.
Tom, thank you very much for coming back. Certainly not the last word we've heard on this one, I'm sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are just about out of time for tonight, but don't forget, you can get more news on our blog, State of Politics. That's where we're posting interviews from the show in case you have missed them and want to catch up. Find it all at nystateofpolitics.com. Of course, we will be back tomorrow night at 8. I'll be speaking with Senators Terry Gibson, Gustavo Rivera, and Daniel Squadron about the Democrats' ethics reform proposals. Also, the Empire Center's Tim Hofer will be here. He'll explain what's next after the state's highest court ruled in his organization's favor in a pension information case. Please do join us for all of that. Until then, thanks for watching, and be well.
All over the state of New York, I've got all these franchises. Take a look at them.